Okay, so tonight we're going to look at what Krishnamurti has to say, and we're using the book On God. And this is Krishnamurti speaking. The things that thought has put together as sacred are not sacred. They are just words to give a significance to life, because life as you live is not sacred, is not holy. The word holy comes from being whole, which means healthy, sane. All that is implied in that word. So a mind that is functioning through thought, however desirous it be to find that which is sacred, is still acting within the field of time, within the field of fragmentation. Can the mind, that is the product of evolution, product of time, product of so much influence, so many hurts, so many travails, such great sorrow, great anxiety, caught in all that is the result of thought. Thought that is fragmentary by its very nature. Can the mind that is the result of thought as it is now be free of the movement of thought? Can the mind be completely non-fragmented? Can you look at life as a whole? The mind that is whole is attentive and therefore cares and has this quality of a deep, abiding sense of love. Can the mind, your mind, be absolutely quiet, without control, without the movement of thought? You understand what the words silent and quiet mean. You know you can make the mind quiet by taking a drug, by repeating a mantra or a word, by constantly repeating. Naturally, your mind will become quiet. But such a mind is a dull, stupid mind. There is silence between two noises. There is silence between two notes. There is silence between two movements of thoughts. There is silence of an evening when the birds have made their noise, chattering, and have gone to bed. When there isn't a flutter among the trees, among the leaves. There is no breeze. There is absolute quietness. Not in a city, but when you're out with nature, when you're with the trees or sitting on the banks of the river, their silence descends on the earth, and you are part of that silence. The silence we're talking about, the quietness of a mind, that silence is not to be bought, is not to be practiced, is not something you gain as a reward, a compensation for an ugly life. It is only when the ugly life has been transformed into the good life. By good, I mean not having plenty, but the life of goodness. In the flowering of that goodness, that beauty, then silence comes. You also have to inquire into what beauty is. What is beauty? Did you look at the sunset this evening as you're sitting there? The sunset was behind the speaker. Did you look at it? Did you feel the light and the glory of that light on a leaf? Or do you think beauty is sensuous and that a mind that is seeking sacred things cannot be attracted to beauty, cannot have anything to do with beauty, and therefore only concentrate on your little image that you have projected from your own thought as the good? Can you find beauty in a face? Beauty in order. Where there is order, there is beauty. There is beauty of love, beauty of compassion. And also there is beauty of a clean street, of good architectural form of a building. There is beauty of a tree, a lovely leaf, the great branches. To see all that is beauty, not merely to go to museums and talk everlastingly about beauty. The silence of a quiet mind is the essence of that beauty, because it is silent and because it is not the plaything of thought. Then in that silence, there comes that which is indestructible, which is sacred. In the coming of that which is sacred, then life becomes sacred. Your life becomes sacred. Our relationship becomes sacred. Everything becomes sacred because you have touched that thing that is sacred. So, what did you hear? What did we hear in this?
Yeah, I think we're here to pay attention. Pay attention to what's around us.
Yes.
The beauty of a sunset, or the beauty of a fly on the side of the wall.
Yes.
It's all beauty.
Yes. Yes. And you're right, we don't pay attention. That's what he was saying here as well. We don't pay attention. And because we're not paying attention, we're not fully present in the present moment.
Well, we're self-preoccupied.
Yeah.
We're otherwise occupied. We don't pay attention to the beauty around us because we're otherwise occupied with my self-drama, my self-inflicted desires, wants, my story, our lives. We see our lives through a very narrow portal. And
Well, yes, go on, I'm sorry.
and then when you see yourself and life through that narrow lens, you miss a great deal.
Well, because as he said, we're caught in thought,
Mhm.
That's
We're-
it.
right? We're caught in our own
It's thought.
thoughts.
And thought is it's the past. It's dead. Thought is it's all thought is conditioned. So we're looking at it through the lens of thought, through the lens of me, and that lens is conditioned. It's conditioned to the extent that it determines what you see as beautiful. It puts parameters around beauty, because I mean, when I think about it, when I see something beautiful, when I see something beautiful, I can say that after I've seen it that it's beautiful.
Right.
But I think what Krishnamurti is getting to is that there is a point that you don't have to have thought to find what's happening. It's happening.
Right.
Thought distorts it. So I think what he's saying is that if you can quiet the mind, in other words, pause thinking, then you can see things without any prejudice as it is. The prejudice which I've inherited through conditioning since I was born. And that really it so resonates. I mean, you wonder sometimes, and you're in awe when at least I am. There are times when there are certain things that certain ideas, the way they're presented, that what's being said is true. And it's spellbinding. It's like almost a still moment. It's almost like looking at a beautiful sunset.
Yes.
There's this feeling of being with something that, I guess it's being with your true self, maybe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well said, well said.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
I would offer that even a latrine pit is a thing of beauty,
Mhm.
in that it's hard to think of anything else except that latrine pit when you're in the middle of it.
Mm.
In a sense that there's a beauty there, because the mind is not distracted. You're right there in the moment. So
Yes. Yes.
and
And
I
that,
disagree, but
that's
we may not
right.
like a latrine pit, but it still may be a thing of beauty.
Well, but
And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go on.
I was just going to say that in a way, everything is beautiful if you don't think about it. I mean, thought is the, you think and you create pleasure through thinking. You think and you create misery through thinking. So thinking is thought. It's a very mischievous thing that we do. And I mean, it's taken me a long time to realize this. It's relatively recent that I've come to understand what this man is trying to say,
Mm.
and really getting to understand the role that the observer and the observed plays. And what you're trying to do is get rid of that observer. That observer is my ego.
Yes.
And if you can get that out of play, or not dominate the scene, or see what it's doing, then you have a chance of trying to get to the other side of understanding that Krishnamurti is talking about. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but boy, it's there. It's there to be gotten if you can get it.
Well, isn't it interesting? I mean, he's saying right here that the silence, when the mind is silent, that you're in, that is beauty. And the beauty is that that's your natural self, your true self, because the silence of the mind is the emptying of the me.
That's right.
And that's then whatever you look at is beautiful, because there is no longer an observer with an object that's being observed. It's just openness.
Mhm. The silence is there once the thoughts are gone.
Yes.
Yes.
And
And I
that,
think that's what he means by silence,
Yeah.
distilling thought. I
Mhm.
mean, because I mean, as I go through the day, the mind is constantly chattering. There's the constant chattering. And when there's chattering, it's being translated into words, and I know that that's a problem. So I guess what's being pointed to here is that by stilling the mind, you're just pausing thought. You're not letting thought run the show, because behind that thought, it's like all the rest of it. It's the
Well-
ego that has been groomed and that sees things in a certain way. And beauty, the beauty is it's not beautiful and it's not big. Beauty is just being with what is, whatever it is.
yes,
Now we should be mindful. Krishnamurti is not damning thought per se,
No, no.
right? He's talking about the movement of thought. Thought, after all, is a capacity of consciousness.
Yes.
right? It's a capacity, a human capacity. But when it runs amok, when it's not looked over or guided, it's a capacity that becomes destructive.
Well, when you're caught in the psychological thinking,
Mhm.
that's when it becomes problematic.
Mhm.
When it's practical, when there has to be practical thought, otherwise we couldn't maneuver in this world. In this waking state world, we do need practical thinking.
Of course.
But practical thinking comes up when it's needed. The chattering that goes on constantly
Right.
is not needed for the most part. I mean, you might have some chattering about what train to catch, but that again is practical. It's the psychological that has the constant chattering, and it's either has to do with being in the past or projecting into the future. When we're able to be fully present in this now moment, then there is no chattering. There's just being, pure being. And that's the beauty that he's talking about.
Right.
But, it's interesting. I thought it was very interesting when he said, there's so much beauty all around you, but you go to museums and you talk, this was his quote, everlastingly of beauty. And you don't, you're oblivious for the most part, not totally, to the beauty all around you every moment. Because as Bill said, we do not pay attention. I think we attend sporadically, or when it's something that's really urgent in our life, we give attention to that. But otherwise, as we go through our day-to-day living, we don't really attend. And so we're not really in the now moment.
We create problems. The whole concept of problem, just the idea that the word problem we've created, and that's a creation of a conflict that we create.
Yes.
And it's a self, when you're not attentive and you're not in attention, you don't see the picture as it is.
That's
And
right.
that creates contradiction and creates friction in a sense.
Yes.
There's the psychological aspect of it, that this idea, this concept of a problem, it's a creation of thought, and it really stems from the insecurity that the self has. The self is trying to be secure all the time, and
Absolutely.
so it creates problems, and then I'm beginning to really understand that there is no such thing as problems if you look at the situation without thought.
Right.
It's the thought that creates the problem. And boy, it's that hard for me to really accept.
Mhm.
I've been throwing away 80 some odd years of my life trying to solve problems.
Problems, we try to solve problems with the mind that created the problem.
Yeah.
It reminds me, like when you just look at beauty around, and I guess what I was visualizing is like if you just look at a drop of water and then just magnify that, and just you're observing just a spot, and then you can just kind of almost enlarge that spot so that you're really clearing your mind and just observing the presence.
Mm.
you know, thinking of a snowflake.
Ah, yes,
So that's what it's bringing me to,
yes, yes.
trying to just keep it simple.
That's right. Well, let me just read one more paragraph of what he says here. He says, we also have to find out if there is something or if there is nothing that is eternal and timeless, which means, can the mind that has been cultivated in the area of time, can that mind find out or come upon or see that thing that is from everlasting to everlasting? It means, can the mind be without time? Psychological time he's talking about. Though time is necessary to go from here to there and all the rest of it, can that mind, that very same mind that operates in time going from here to there, not psychologically, but physically, can that mind be without time? Which means, can the mind be without the past, without the present, without the future? Can that mind be in absolute nothingness? Don't be frightened of that word, because it is empty. It's got vast space. Have you ever observed in your own mind if you have any space at all there? Just space, a little space. Or is everything crowded by your worries, by your sex or no sex, by your achievements, by your knowledge, by your ambitions, your fears, your anxieties, your pettiness, crowded? How can such a mind understand or be in that state of being or have that enormous space? Space is always enormous. A mind that has no space in daily life cannot possibly come upon that which is eternal, which is timeless. So there again, right? He's talking about this me, this self-centered entity that we take ourselves to be. And yeah, the mind is crowded. Can we uncrowd that mind? Yes. By observing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
moment by moment. By observing that which crowds it and pulling the plug on it.
Yeah, time and space both are created by the mind, right? I mean,
Right.
it's
That's right.
by the mind that sees, that discriminates.
That's right.
That being right here, right now, in this very moment, there is no real time or space, either one.
There's no thought messing it up. I think that's what's being pointed to, like you say, to really have your attention, to really give it attention. If you're really attentive to something, there's no thought involved.
Right.
You're concentrating, it's the wrong word, but you're not thinking through the me or through something else. There's no chatter going on. What's going
Right.
on here? What am I looking at? Whatever it is.
That's right. There's no
You're not
self.
judging it. It's just there with whatever is there. There's no
Right.
observer, let's say.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there may be thought going on, but it's not self-related thought. It's the thought of whatever the project at hand requires.
Right, right.
Well, so it's interesting that some of the scientists, the non-materialists, say and point to what are we really, right? We're molecules, and smaller than that atoms, and smaller than that subatomic particles. And so what are we really, right? I mean, we're not as we seem to be in actual reality. And I just pulled this up because I thought this was interesting. Heisenberg says, atoms are not things. The electrons which form an atom shell are no longer things in the sense of classical physics, things which could be unambiguously described by concepts like location, velocity, energy, and size. These concepts the human intellect can understand. But when we get down to the atomic level, the objective world in space and time just no longer exists. So we live in time, in psychological time, in this me that doesn't exist ultimately, in the ultimate reality. So we take a non-existing
Illusion.
Image.
image, we because it feels so real, we take it as it is real, and we live through that. And that image comes alive every moment, either in the past or into the future, into the past or into the future. And it strengthens itself.
Mhm.
So when he says that because we are caught in this psychological time, how can we possibly know that which is sacred, that which is timeless, that which is, as in his words, everlasting?
Mhm.
And yet, that's what we long for. All of us long for that. And how could we not long for that? Caught in this image of a me, there's no inner peace. Or maybe you could have peace for like a short period, but not everlasting peace, not real peace. And that's what we're longing for. Just like we're longing for happiness. But as long as we think that we really are this body mind, that this is what we are and that's it, how can that which is sacred visit us or call us or come to us?
It can't. It can't do it. The product is the thinking, it's the mind. And if you're going to try to use that instrument to solve the problem, it's contaminated. It's not gonna find what you're looking for. That's hard. I mean, the only way I can describe it is I believe him. I take it on maybe faith. Yes, maybe that's not the right word, but that there is this present awareness, that my true identity, that there really is. The way I understand it, it's not something that I can experience because it's not about the I.
That's right.
So to try to get the mind to understand it is a rabbit hole.
Right.
Yes.
You just have to I don't know how exactly to describe it, but you just have to pursue the road of trying to quiet the mind and see what happens. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. What is it? You have to experience it to know it.
That's
It's
right.
not something that you can describe.
That's right.
But I mean, it's something that I've come to the conclusion that exists, that there is this universal awareness which gives presence to everything.
That's
Yes.
right.
And I wasn't brought up that way. I spent practically all of my life not living that way, but I've stumbled upon this. And you know, I'm learning from you, from
Sure.
reading, from whatever I can get to reinforce that this exists. I mean, I hear about some people that wake up in the morning and all of a sudden the eye isn't there anymore. Well, okay, that's a story, but I'm just hanging on to everything that I've been able to read about this stuff. Everything I've been able to listen to points me to the fact that this is true,
Mm-hmm.
and that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what else is going to happen, but I can't go beyond that because I'm trying to use my brain to go behind it.
That's right.
And
You
that's a rabbit hole.
That's right. You can only be it. You can't know it.
Right, right. Because we've been trained to chase experience.
Of
Everything
course.
we want experience. We want to experience something. We want to go to a great movie, a great ball game. We want to have a wonderful cake, a wonderful sex experience, all kinds of wonderful things. We're chasing experiences. This is not an experience.
That's right.
And how the hell you make sense out of that?
Yeah, the mind tries to make present awareness into an object,
Right.
which
Yes.
it is not, of course. So there's no way you can understand it.
That's
I agree with Paul. You just have to be it.
Mhm.
That's right. That presence awareness is not it can't be an object because objects appear in presence awareness.
Right.
Well, that which is one can't see itself.
You
If
know,
you're one, you have to have a view, an observer and an observed to see something.
mhm,
And what we're talking about is something that is not that.
That's right.
mhm.
It has no form. It's not an object.
Mhm.
You were going to say something?
Well, about the experience itself, you always try to think of analogies or similarities. The one that always comes to my mind is, the Gestalt figures, where you can look at the drawing on the wall and see an hourglass. And then your friend says, "What hourglass? I see two faces." And then you look again and you say, "Well, I don't see faces. I see the hourglass." And then you stare at it and you stare at it and you still see the hourglass. And then for some reason, at some point, oh, there are the two people. Now I got it. It's like
Right.
you can't be directed toward it.
Well,
You've
you can
got,
be pointed.
yes, but you've got to see it yourself. You can be pointed toward.
Absolutely. You can
Right.
be pointed to it. And that's what these words, when we meet each week and we read and we talk, these are just pointers. They're pointers
Right.
to that which is, that presence that we are. Because it will go, as you said, the mind can't figure it out.
That's what the mind does. It creates problems. It never finds an answer. I mean, there's always an answer, but then but what if or but or something, it's mindless.
We gradually learn to pay less attention to the mind. We gradually learn to pay less attention to the thoughts. They don't grab us as much as they once did. And that creates more space in the mind.
Correct.
And the more space you have, the closer you get to silence.
Yes.
That's
Well,
right.
that's the silence is the space between thoughts.
Mhm.
But that's right. We pay attention, or we give attention, or we attend to the thoughts rather than to the presence that we are.
So the less we follow the thoughts, the more we let them go and pass through us without following them, the more space we create. And the more space, the greater your experience, although it's not any, but to use the word that seems most, the greater your experience of silence will be. And at some point, you won't experience the silence, you'll be
No.
the silence.
Well, that's
Right, right. That's
right.
the thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'm just thinking, and I've tried this and it's happened, and it works in the sense, I'm in a psychological problem. I'm worried about something or this, that, and the other thing. And then it occurs to me, say, wait a minute, I got a problem. How did this problem come? I'm thinking about the problem. So then I said, let me see if I can pause this. If I can get to the point where I stop thinking about the problem by maybe focusing on something that's right in front of me, in other words, trying to get to right now, what's happening right now. When the thought pauses, the problem goes away. The problem only exists in thought. All problems. And the thing is that I really can appreciate about this is that what's being pointed to is that, for me anyhow, the way I interpret it is that if you can pause thought and you can now look at this quote problem without the thought, you will see the problem as it is. The solution will come. There will be an answer to it. And you won't have a choice about it. I mean, it'll just be, that's it. There's no choice involved. You've gone beyond that. You're just looking at this thing the way it is. And I mean, maybe it's poetic to say it this way, but your present awareness allows you to find the correct solution for it. And it's always correct because there's no you, there's no me.
Yes,
Making the judgment.
yes,
It's the situation making the judgment.
right. So when an issue arises that causes distress, you're saying, Ugo, that if you're able to look at that issue without the ego looking at the issue, but just looking at the facts of what's presented in that issue, just looking at the facts of it, the solution is in those facts. And
Pretty
usually,
much.
you're right, that one is able to resolve. It's resolved once you see clearly. That's why clarity is so important. Clarity without our bias, without our particular prejudice, without our particular desire for an outcome. If we could free ourselves of that and just see whatever is presented to us in the moment, clearly, factually, almost as if it was occurring to someone else. And just looking, just to look, just to observe. The answer is there. And if it isn't there, if one doesn't see it immediately, then we shelve it, take it off the shelf again, and look again without getting distressed, into anxiety and panicky about it. If we can do that.
gives you a little bit of time to see this thing and maybe realize that there is no answer when you see it
Right, that may be,
logically. And usually when at that point, I mean, that's it. There's no answer.
yes,
You know,
and then,
the world is spinning, the earth is spinning,
yes,
and I don't want it to spin. I'm tired of it spinning. Well, good luck, you know. No, I think that at some point, with certain decisions that you have to make in my personal life, I have had that happen to me where before all this work and all this stuff, where I had spent an incredible amount of time and energy worrying about a problem, trying to find an answer. And finally, out of fatigue, out of just exhaustion, I come to the conclusion, I don't think there is no answer. That's it. And once I reach that, there seems to be a certain calmness, and it either doesn't become a problem, or it's not going to, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. You give it up.
Yeah,
well, I think you're talking about surrender.
Yeah.
It's not
Acceptance more than, for me, acceptance more than surrender.
accepted.
You know, I don't like to accept. I think I can do it, you know.
I would suggest that the answer comes during those moments of surrender.
Yes,
mhm.
that's right, that's right. Because then when in that moment that's it, I just don't know. I'm just gonna let this go because I don't know. Then there is silence. And in
Yes.
that silence, an answer appears. And you're right, it's usually right on.
Well, it all comes back though to, not going on automatic, not just waking up in the morning and rushing about unconsciously following the same patterns and routines and trying to have a special degree of attention paid to where my mind is at any given moment. Especially when I'm not involved in something that concrete, practical that needs to be done. That's, if I could always, if you could remember to watch check in with your
Witness.
with your witness every time you're not actually practically engaged in doing something. If your witness could give you a report where your head is at.
Well, you want, if our true nature is peace, then we have to find out what's disturbing this peace. So in other words, we go through our daily life and fine, there's no disturbance. We just do what we need to do. However, disturbances come up. And when they do, that's a disturbance of the peace. It's not our natural way of being. Our natural way is peaceful.
Right.
So to pay attention or to give attention or to attend to that which disturbs the peace is probably a very important and useful pointer to what's going on with us. And at that point, to pull the plug on it, not give life to it.
It's funny, when you said disturbing the peace, I don't know I guess if this is still a thing, but in the old days, if you got drunk and disorderly, they'd call the cops and you'd get arrested for disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
Well, that drunken, disorderly guy is living in our heads, right? And but we don't have any police to come and get him out. We've got to be the police ourselves. Disturbing the peace. Who's in there disturbing the peace?
Well,
what's in there.
Well, then the witness, as you
Yeah.
said, then that's where the witness comes. That's what the witness shines a light on. But it does require attention. And he said here, with attention, there's care. I thought he said it so beautifully. Let me see if I can find it. So the mind that is whole, you know, when he talks about a fragmented mind, he's talking obviously about a mind that's full of these thoughts, and thoughts are fragments. They're not whole. So he's saying a mind that is whole, and wasn't it interesting when he defined a mind that is whole as holy? So the
Yeah.
mind that is whole is attentive and therefore cares and has this quality of a deep, abiding sense of love. And maybe we don't love ourselves enough. You know, we think we love ourselves from this self-centered perspective. I want what I want when I want it. And I'm important, and this other person isn't as important as me. That self-centered me thinking. But that's not loving ourselves. Loving ourselves is paying attention with great care as to what's going on in this mind. And where are we living, in the past or in the future, or right now in this moment where there is no me at all?
Mhm.
So I think we'll,
Well, I hope you guys can all stay warm.
oh, Paulie.
No, I mean that, out of a loving, caring concern. And say stay safe and warm.
And well, stay well.
Thank you.
And are we doing another session last week?
I do believe we will. I will email with dates,
Okay.
and hopefully we'll meet again next week.
Great.
Okay, enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good night. Good night,
Thank
all.
Good night.
thanks for being.
Buonasera a tutti, eh?
Ah,
Buonasera.
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 Buonasera. Buonasera.